Mike Finn is a researcher in British politics at the University of Warwick, and he joins us now from London. Good to speak to you, Mike. So do we understand from the Supreme Court decision that for the time being, EU law is an overriding impact of the UK's legal system?
Well, I think what we can understand from the Supreme Court decision is that fundamentally the Prime Minister's agenda in exercising Article 50 is going to be subject to some scrutiny by Parliament. EU law has for many decades now overridden UK law in certain respects, but the reason for that is because it is written into UK law. The European Communities Act of the 1970s and all the laws that the British Parliament has passed since then in relation to Europe have embedded EU law into UK statute law. So essentially what the Prime Minister's tried to do here is she's tried to escape Parliament having a good look at her plan for Brexit. That's really what this means. It's not really about the speed, and the Supreme Court essentially isn't going to let her get away with that.
So is this a setback for Theresa May's Brexit plans?
I think it's a setback, as your correspondent earlier said. It's not a setback in terms of derailing Brexit. Brexit will happen. There is a clear majority of MPs who will support a vote to exercise Article 50 in Parliament. But what it will do in terms of a setback is it could potentially mean that our hands are more tied than they might otherwise have been in the negotiations, because what this now means is a new law must be brought before Parliament, a new Act of Parliament, and that bill can be amended. And the amendments to that bill, and the Scottish National Party for one has already promised at least 50 amendments, could mean that Theresa May heads into negotiations with her European partners already with a position set for her by Parliament, and that's something she was desperate to avoid.
So since Brexit, I believe people want to see answers. Nobody really knows how this process will affect the UK, and since the UK will be the first country to leave the EU. So if we could take the time back with this decision, do you think it would change the outcome?
I think, as you said, nobody really knows what's going to happen. There is a degree of uncertainty about it, but I think there's also a sense in which Britain has been in a kind of pause, if you like, for the last 6 or 7 months. There's been a lot of discussion of Brexit, but because Article 50 hasn't been exercised and because these legal machinations have gone on, nobody's really actually been involved in the actual politics of negotiating the exit or knowing what the exit will look like in a meaningful sense. I think what you're seeing now is you're seeing real politics restart. And it's only after that process works itself out for a while, with the obvious impact that will have on the economy and with Britain's standing in the world, that we'll get a sense of whether or not the British public mood will change. At the moment, the British public mood, according to a poll published this morning, is still steadfastly in favour of Brexit and steadfastly in favour of exercising Article 50 as soon as possible. I think once we're into the Article 50 negotiations and once businesses start to take decisions about where to locate their firms and their personnel, you might start to see things change a little bit in terms of the internal politics of the question, but not until then.
Thank you for joining us, Mike Finn, on TRT World.